we have the man who helped organize the Black Panther Party for self-defense, Brother Bobby Seale. All right. Being here for the first time, to be able to run down, to speak to you and explain about Black people's Black liberation struggle, about the revolutionary struggle, about the Black Panther Party, and how we all together go forth pushing the revolutionary struggle.
The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is here.
I had educational benefits from the Air Force, so I decided to enter into City College in Oakland and draw on my GI Bill, enrolling in Merritt College, and that's where I met Bobby Seale and Huey Newton. We had repression going on, people getting killed by cops every week.
San Francisco has followed the national pattern in which racial violence has been triggered by a police-Negro community confrontation. The slaying of this 16-year-old youngster is indeed regrettable, and nobody in official authority in this town has gone before the citizenry and said that this police officer will be brought to justice.
We would get together with other kids on campus. We would, go back and forth about approaches. They had other organizations that dealt with culture, Swahili, and stuff like that. We were more interested in trying to deal with combating the ills in the community on a progressive and revolutionary level. We began to study the writings of Che Guevara and Mao Zedong, of course Malcolm X. In the meantime, Bobby said we're starting a new organization.
Now, when we first organized the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, he would say, Bobby, we don't want to go real elaborate with all these essays and dissertations and all this stuff. He said, we just want a basic platform to outline Black people's basic political desires and needs. First, he would say, we want freedom, we want power to determine the destiny of our Black community. Number two, we want full employment for our people. Number three, we want an end to the robbery by the white racist businessmen of Black people and Black people in their community. Number four, we want housing, decent housing, fit for shelter of human beings. Number five, we want decent education for our Black people in our community that teaches us the true nature of this decadent racist society, and to teach Black people and our young Black brothers and sisters their place in the society. Number six, we want all Black men to be exempt from military service. Number seven, we want an immediate end to police brutality and murder of Black people. Number eight, we want all Black men held in county, state, federal jails and prisons to be released because they have not had a fair trial, because they've been tried by all white juries, and that's just like being tried in Germany being a Jew. We want Black people, number nine, when brought to trial, to be tried by members of their peers, and a peer being one who comes from the same economic, social, religious, historical, and racial background. And number 10, he would say, let's just summarize it. We want housing, we want clothing, we want education, we want justice, and we want peace.
Bobby Hutton, he was recruited at the North Oakland Service Center in October '66. I believe he was 15 at the time. He was our first recruit, and we made him treasurer. And he was like my little brother that I never had. He was the inspiration of the party because the party was very youth oriented. and we tutored him and politicized him.
Consulting with Huey, he knew the law because he studied law and stuff.
California Penal Code Section 12020 through 12027, and also the Second Amendment of the Constitution guarantees the citizen a right to bear arms on public property.
And so we began to acquire firearms.
When we first started, we had a police alert patrol
to teach people in the community that they had rights. We would advise people when they were stopped by the cops, we'd get out and observe.
If we saw the police brutalize anyone, we put an end to this. Usually the police wouldn't brutalize anyone if we were on hand because we were armed.
And so we advise people being arrested to go ahead and take the arrest, don't resist.
We follow him to the jail and bail the individual out.
And people begin to wonder, who are these guys?
Therefore, the community started to say that, well, these people are really concerned about our welfare. And we've gained many recruits like this.
I led an armed delegation May 2nd, 1967 to the California State Legislature to oppose a piece of legislation. The Mulford Act was saying that we could not carry loaded guns inside city limits within 150 feet of public property. Ronald Reagan was the governor. He was on the front lawn out there. We went inside. 5 party members got ahead of me, and instead of going to the spectator section, they walked in on the floor of the actual assembly.
When I came into the Black Panther Party, I was in the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee in Atlanta, Georgia. Bobby Seale was already serving time for the visit to Sacramento with the armed delegation. Huey Newton was shot, facing a murder charge. Police shot at Huey Newton. He survived, and John Fry died. I had already met Eldridge Cooper.
On my part, to see to it that the public becomes aware of what's being done to this man, we intend to rededicate ourselves to that effort and to work hard on it and to see to it that Huey P. Newton is set free.
He called me and said, you've got to come out here and help. So I came out to help, and we were able to get it rolling and get a movement around his case. And by the time he went to trial, there was 5,000 people around the courthouse. The Free Huey movement caught on. Many people came out after that. The popularity expanded tremendously.
I was a junior at Lincoln University, and I was 18 years old. And I read a Ramparts magazine article. Huey was pictured strapped to a hospital gurney with a policeman standing over him. Huey had a stomach wound, a gunshot wound in his stomach. And on the day when I read that article, I wondered what I was doing in college and why wasn't I out there supporting him and supporting Black people. And so within a week, my friend and I, John Huggins and I, who later became my husband and was later killed by the FBI at UCLA in 1969, drove across country to aid in freeing Huey Newton.
What kind of motivated me to join the Black Panther Party was that they were doing things that we wanted to do in New York, and we thought that would be a better vehicle than the vehicle that we had going on in New York. They were better organized, and they already had their 10-point platform and program, and people already heard about them. A few of us had actually went out to California in late 67 to check it out, to see was it all we thought it was, and we had found out from them that it was. And so when we heard they were coming to New York, we got there and joined the party as soon as we could.
Primarily, I got involved in the Panther Party as a result of me decided to come home from the Army because there was a tremendous amount of riots in 65, 66, 67. I found out that there were serious problems in the community. Community was under attack by the police departments, etc. So I looked around and identified what I thought was the best organization to address that. It was the Black Panther Party.
We were a part of organizing people in 40 cities and states in America. In 8 foreign countries. We were in Algiers. We were in France. We were in Germany. We had support groups in Cuba.
Knowledge is power, and knowledge can be the difference believe in demonstration for the sake of demonstration. We believe in demonstration for the sake of education. We believe that people need to be educated if we ever going to defend ourselves against the fascism that's running rampant in the United States of America and all over the world today.
They call it a bunch of thugs and crooks and this and that and the other. But we change people's attitude. All these young people that come to the party came with heavy issues. We had people come in that had been to jail, been to prison, they had major issues. And we politically educated them and showed them how and why these things were happening.
See, the Black Panther Party, a lot of people say we're violent. Yes, we do defend our offices and we do defend our homes. This is a constitutional right. Everybody has. There's nothing funny about that. The only reason they get mad at the Black Panther Party when they do it is for the simple reason that we're political. And they don't want to admit this. There are a lot of young organizations around, but we are a political organization.
We constantly and at all times criticize and condemn racism. We always work with other organizations. We never use color as the basis of our criticism. We talked about power to the people, but the media wanted to portray the Black Panther Party as something that white people would be afraid of. Therefore, it portrayed it as an all-black organization that hated white people and wanted to use violence against white people. But once you have that idea of an organization, then anything they say is bad, and anything that can be done to them is okay.
We're subject to the tactics of racists by the white establishment, but it's a very common thing for the people who are in control of the mass media to define the victim as the criminal, or to define the victim of racism as the racist. This is just a propaganda device that's used by the power structure so that they will gain support throughout the white community.
So we had an understanding that our oppression was not the only form of oppression in America. And as a result, we coalesced with any number of organizations or a number of groups representing other oppressed groups, starting with AIM, the American Indian Movement, moving through the Brown Berets, the Young Lords, the Young Patriots, which were poor whites coming out of Chicago, based in Chicago.
What makes them mad about it is that they had black people and white poor people and red poor people and Puerto Rican poor people and Latin American Puerto Rican people of poor people of all descent. They had them caught up in their movements based on racism when the Black Panther Party stood up and said that we don't care what anybody says, we're going to fight racism, not racism, but we're going to fight the solidarity. We said we're not going to fight capitalism with black capitalism, but we're going to fight it with socialism. We're going to fight their reaction with all of us people to get together and have an international proletarian revolution.
The Black Panther Party understood white supremacy in the context of class and caste, and in the context of the exploitation of working people. And so we formulated alliances with radical organizations, with other liberation movements, with African liberation movements, with movements for liberation in Southeast Asia and in Palestine, and across the political spectrum.
And we talked about women's liberation very specifically as a part of our struggle.
This brother here, myself, all of us were born with our hair like this, and we just wear it like this because it's natural, because the reason for it, you might say, is like a new awareness among black people. Isn't it beautiful? All right.
Self-defense is misunderstood, but not by people of color. It's misunderstood because it means taking care of oneself and loved ones.
We established a health institute, a medical clinic, a breakfast program, an educational program.
And so the Breakfast for Children program was self-defense. The People's Free Medical Clinics are self-defense.
Martin Luther King, the apostle of nonviolence in the civil rights movement, has been shot to death in Memphis,
Sniper's bullet cut down Dr. King as he stood on a hotel balcony in Memphis.
For Dr. King to be killed was just beyond comprehension. We love this man. Many people proposed at the end of King's life, he was probably more like a member of the Black Panther Party than anything else.
We are in a new era, a new phase of the struggle, because there are three evils in our nation. It's not only racism, but economic exploitation of poverty would be one, and then militarism. And in a very real sense, these three are tied inextricably together, and we aren't going to get rid of one without getting rid of the other.
Everything was all askew now, and everybody said, okay, it's going to be armed struggle. I mean, everybody was angry.
They murdered Bobby Hutton and shot and wounded Eldridge Cleaver after they set the house on fire, put tear gas in the place, shot the place all up. Fellows came out of the place with their hands in the air.
Little Bobby is only one example. He represents all the other black men and women who have been murdered and killed throughout history for the last 400 years when black people were first brought over here.
Until he was killed, I really couldn't imagine any of our party members being murdered, even though that I knew that risks took place. After he was killed, and it was like I felt the party vulnerable.
We created a great coalition of American oppressed people, and of course that raised the anger of the FBI and the established politicians. They couldn't bribe us out, they couldn't get people to not support us and all that, so it came right down to outright assassination and killings to wipe us out.
The Federal Bureau of Investigation's counterintelligence program was yet another expression of violently racist structures set up in society.
The FBI, with its COINTELPRO, decided to destroy the Black Panther Party, and within a year and a half, it destroyed about 25 of our 37 state chapters.
Over 20 members were killed. The murder of Fred Hampton in Chicago, Illinois, where the police came in at the wee hours of the morning and killed Fred Hampton and Mark Clark, shot up 8 or 9 people in the house. Some 40 people, either directly related to our organization or indirectly, are still in prison. Some 7 or 8 are in exile. So it was a concerted effort to criminalize and to discredit our movement.
Newton's last trial and manslaughter conviction were overturned by a higher court this year, so now he'll be tried again. And in the meantime, he is out on bail. He is back on the street.
I feel that only a partial victory has been won. In other words, that I'm not really being released from prison, that I'm being transferred from maximum security to medium security. Our community and the communities of the world are now prison camps, all because of the aggression of U.S. imperialism and the bureaucratic capitalism here at home. We will ask the United Nations to allow for the return of our Minister of Information, Eldridge Cleaver, to this country under the immunity that the United Nations has the power to give dignitaries and also political exiles.
He disbanded all the chapters across the country and it was supposed to bring organizers all into Oakland under the guise of having these people work on the Bobby Seale for Mayor campaign.
Now people see that in order to change the police, we have to change the entire political organization. We'll go on organizing the community with our survival programs. We'll fight by initiative to get as many things changed as possible. I think it's our obligation to change what we can change. At this time, we just look to the future for total change. It's a wrong, incorrect tactic to try to change the whole without changing the parts first.
People began to leave. It got to a point, even Bobby Seale left. Any explanation as to why, but it was all a result due to ramifications of closing the party down, really, if you will. It's over. As far as I'm concerned, it's over. And
the way the party was and the way it was organized, it developed at a particular point in history, and it responded to a particular need. If the people see and feel that there is a need for something like that, similar to it, if we see the need again, I think that it will happen.
So we always say the Black Panther Party that they can do anything they want to us. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am a revolutionary. And you're going to have to keep on saying that.
As far as our fear of being wiped out, we have no fear whatsoever. We realize that, as the saying goes, that you can kill the dreamer but not the dream. So we feel that our teachings will go on, and if people will identify with the party's leadership, we can instill a philosophy that is acceptable to the people, then we will serve our purpose.